My husband in an argument, and he won't talk to me now. How do I fix this? It starts my husband, 32 male, and I, 31 female, have been together for 7 years, married for 5. We have a 3.5 son and a 1-year daughter. His parents passed away when he was 20, to describe it shortly. He despises his father to this day. His father ruined his promising athletic future. He was once ranked in the top 10 nationally at this sport and forced him to focus on school. My husband was accepted to multiple Ivy League schools, and his father refused to pay tuition as well. His father was a control freak, physically abusive towards him, and refused to entertain any opposing opinions. My husband vowed to himself to never be like his father, and to always encourage his future kids' interests and opportunities. He's always been an amazing husband to me and our kids. He makes spending time with us a priority, keeps our relationship fun and exciting, and just always makes me feel beautiful and appreciated. We've been going through a bit of a rough patch for a few weeks, and we were arguing about something that wasn't even worth arguing about. In hindsight, he said that he was done arguing and walked away mid-conversation. I blurted out, "You were just like your father." As soon as I said that, I immediately tried apologizing and ran to him and tried to hug him. He refused my hug, looked at me, shook his head, and walked out the door. A whole day passed, and I hadn't seen or heard from him. I called, text, and left many voicemails, apologizing and asking him to please come home. I reached out to his friends, and they had not heard from him either. He walked in drunk at 4 a.m. The next night, collapsed on our couch. I heard him come in and ran downstairs to see him. He was slurring his words and was saying things like, "I'm not like him, and why would you say that?" I just held him in my arms all night long and apologized many times. It's been another 2 days, and my husband refuses to talk or look at me. He's not even eating anything I make. I've tried talking to him and apologizing. He just looks at me and says it's just another thing I have to live with, and walks away from wherever I am. I have no idea how to fix this. I didn't mean to hurt him, but the fact he feels betrayed by the one person he should feel supported and uplifted by me is absolutely the love of my life, and it hurts me knowing that I caused him to feel this pain. Please advise what I can do or say to fix. Update: my husband and I are both breaking cycles of our own, and we are both vicious when it comes to how we argue, and we both have said things to hurt to the bone, but we always come back because we both know everything else is, and the work we do is appreciated. What have you done to break him down to this being the reason he's defeated? So Opie came in with her update and says, I got some comments and some messages trashing my husband for walking away from the argument that started all of this and saying he is like his father. I'm not going to say hat. The argument was about here, but it was pointless, and walking away from it was the mature thing to do. He's the best husband and father anyone could ask for. Even when he wasn't talking to me, he was still spending time with and taking care of the kids. Think whatever you want of me, I deserve it. But leave him out of it. On to the actual update. My husband came home after work the next day and brought takeout for dinner. We had dinner as a family for the first time in a few days and put the kids to bed together. I asked Ket if we could talk. I apologized and admitted that I was tired of all the arguments we were having lately, and in the heat of the moment I wanted to hurt him and said what would hurt the most. He said that he knows he is nothing like his father. And why? I thought he was. I promised I don't believe that at all, and told him all the great things he does for me and our children. I told him that I would see a therapist to figure out what made me say what I did, and to make sure it never happened again. The conversation lasted about an hour and a half, and ended with him telling me that it would take some time, but we would be okay as long as I never compared him to his father again. We kissed and slept together for the first time since the incident. In the next few days, there was still a certain coldness about him. He was still happy to spend time with the kids, but was still somewhat cold with me. I wrote him a letter telling him how much I loved and appreciated him, and promised to never hurt him again, and slipped into his lunch bag. He came home with flowers for him. That day, our normal vibe is somewhat returned, and it looks like we'll be good going forward. Story 2, AITA. The 4, not giving my adopted daughter a stuffed animal for a high school graduation, and both my biological children. Got one I-49 female have 3 children, 22 female, 19 male, and 18 female. My oldest and my biological children from a previous marriage, and my youngest. I became a mother too at the age of 2 when I married her widowed father. She has only ever called me Mom, and I officially adopted her at the age of 12. Now on to the issue with the stuffed animals. Years and years ago, when I was only 20 and in college, I worked at a children's museum. I adored the job, and working with kids, I had the idea to buy stuffed animals from the gift shop to be my future kids' first stuffed animals whenever they were born. I had gotten the stuffed bear at birth that was very special to me growing up, and on my 18th birthday, my parents gifted me a duplicate that they had bought way back when and kept for me all these years. I found this so special and wanted to do something similar. I bought 6 stuffed animals from the museum gift shop Frey to be given at birth and 3 duplicate. I had no idea at the time how many kids I would have, but I knew I wasn't planning on having more than 3, so I didn't get any more. My first daughter received the stuffed animal I selected for her while pregnant, and between her birth and the birth of my son, I miscarried. The experience was deeply traumatic for me especially. I miscarried in my 2nd trimester, and I buried my baby with a stuffed animal they would have gotten. I kept the duplicate too for comfort, to cuddle and hold. Finally my son was born, and received the last of the stuffed animals I had set aside so many years ago. Now here's where I may be, for both my daughter and sons' high school graduations, I surprised them with the duplicates for them to take to college with them and compare against the stuffies they've been loving on their whole lives. Both were very moved by this and took both original and duplicate to school with them. My youngest, however, never received a stuffed animal, and so when her graduation celebration rolled along, hadn't a duplicate to gift her. I watched her unpack all her gifts, and her face fell, and she got to the last one and realized she didn't really say anything, just got this super sad look on her face, and excused herself to her room. I followed to ask what was wrong, but she said she didn't want to talk to me, so her father went instead. According to him, she cried to him that she didn't feel as loved by me as her siblings and as much as a part of the family. The unwrapping of her siblings' stuffed animals were very emotional events, and she had the expectation that she'd be getting the same. In hindsight, I could have easily done something similar for her whenever I first came into her life, even if it wouldn't have been from the museum. I just didn't think of it. She'd been called to me this entire last week, and I feel so terrible. I've offered to take her out to a special dinner, the 2 of us, to make amends, but she turned me down. Update 1, the votes are in, and I am definitely the many of you were suggesting that I get her a stuffy that reminds me of her, or maybe to get her too so she can continue the tradition with her future kid. I think what I will do is gifted a duplicate my parents gifted me of my special plush bear I received at birth, which is one of my most treasured Dacians and deeply meaningful to me. Thank you all for the advice. It is genuinely appreciated. Hope you updated the post 6 days later, and says, long story short, my daughter found my Reddit post and came to me in tears apologizing for her reaction. This was not my expectation, and I assured her she had nothing to apologize for, as I had been in the wrong. We had a long discussion about the situation, our feelings, and how to move forward from this. And although I know she is still hurt, we're on our way to making amends. Long story long, so what even happened as I've now discovered my daughter loves browsing in my DSL. She stumbled on my post, and after reading its entirety, as well as a good chunk of the comments, all mine and many left by other Redditors, she came to me in tears, apologizing for her reaction. She sobbed in my arms that she didn't want this the end of our relationship, and that she was sorry I wanted to enjoy this last summer together. I held her and assured her that she had nothing to apologize for, and apologized myself. I did shed a little tear, but tried to keep my emotions in check, because I did not want the burden of comforting me to be on her. What followed was a productive but incredibly emotional, vulnerable conversation, the details of which I will not disclose entirely. He's been going through a rough time, and my impression, I could be wrong, is that the lack of a stuffy at graduation was a catalyst. For bigger emotions, she did take me up on my offer to take her to dinner, and I've now booked a reservation at a nice restaurant she's been wanting to go to for a while. And last night, we cooked her 4ii dinner together, which gave us an opportunity to smooth things over. Somewhat we've not yet broached the subject of me intending to gift her my own plush, except for very briefly, she insisted. I didn't have to and seemed to feel a lot of guilt, but I still plan to. I just feel it would be best to wait until things have cooled down, and if she truly doesn't feel comfortable taking it, I plan on getting a bear of a similar look to be its little brother for her to take care of. That's the update. Obviously, things have not magically mended overnight, but we are finally on track to a resolution. Many thanks to all that left advice, and please check the comments below for clarification on many questions asked before passing any judgments. I far exceeded the allowed word limit and have instead pasted much of what I intended to say here below. Update 2. When I initially posted to Amai the SL, I was prepared to face judgment and open to constructive criticism. However, while I did receive many constructive comments, which I truly appreciate, I received many more that were hateful and unconstructive, and I will admit I did get defensive. The attitude I took on in the comments is not one I brought into my interactions with my daughter. Please understand that I did not throw in her face all the kind things I feel I've done over the years, but was rather attempting to contextualize our relationship with strangers who's never met us. And before passing any further judgment in the comments, please check below for answers to a lot of your questions. For a lot of the questions asked in the original thread, to answer a few questions. I did not adopt her until 10 years after I came into her life, because I never sought to force myself on her as a mother, and waited until she could give me explicit consent to adopt her. Why did I never buy her any stuffed animals? I did. I bought her many when I first met her, as well as one for her official adoption day and every adoption day celebration since, and I did technically gift her a stuffed animal for a graduation too. It was just a plush of a college's mascot, rather than a duplicate of a treasured plush from her childhood. So why did I not buy her a duplicate at any point over the last 16 years? I did not think to until my oldest graduated and received hers, by which point I mistakenly felt the significance would be lost. Both my bio kids received stuffy save for them for decades, whereas she would have received one save for only 4 years inst. I try to honor her in other ways, such as I described in the comments, crafting her a cookbook of generational family recipes I illustrated by hand, because she is her own individual. Truthfully, while you understand the sentiments expressed in the comments, I don't believe recognizing differences is inherently a bad thing. The duplicate stuff, might be Hasid received with duplicates the very first stuffies to ever be in their crib with them. The receival of them was a birth event. I did not give birth to my youngest, but that does not mean I love her any less, or that she is any less my daughter. We've established our own traditions, honoring her entry into my life, such as our celebration of her adoption day, and while I realized I could have handled the stuffy situation better, I do believe it was an honest mistake. But how could I not include her in a treasured family tradition, knowing how important it is, especially as an adopted child, to feel part of the family? Because I truly did not realize this one specific tradition meant as much to her as it did. I've strived to include her in as many family traditions as possible throughout the years. As I mentioned in the comments, she speaks German because I taught and spoke it to her growing up, even though her father does not. We celebrate German traditions such as baking countless batches of German Christmas cookies together every year, just the two of us. Neither of our siblings have any interest in baking, which is something I grew up doing with my mom, and every year at is quality time I deeply treasure. For a 16th birthday, I gifted a locket my mother gifted me on my 16th, which she had been gifted by my grandmother before me. This actually upset my eldest daughter, who had not received such a hand-me-down. And this is just to name a few, so given the fact that she has, on occasion, received and taken part in traditions my other kids have been excluded from. I did not think this stuffy would carry as much weight it ultimately did, but isn't her reaction an indication that there are larger issues at play and that she has likely felt this way for a while perhaps? I'm not a perfect adopted mother, and I've never claimed to be. I cannot see inside her brain, so I cannot know her true feelings, but my sense, and I may be wrong, is that the larger issues at play relate back to her biomen, which is something she expressed to me in our conversation. I did not disclose this in my original post because I did not believe it to be relevant, and it is also a painful topic within our family. The boomum committed suicide while she was in a thick of postpartum depression. This obviously impacted my daughter, who has been in and out of therapy for years, grappling with feelings of loss and guilt. She highly sensitive to feeling isolated within our family unit, which is something I should have taken into account in this situation, and I own that I realized this a huge hunk of text. But given the visceral reaction many had, I felt it was important to cover my bases, come to whatever conclusions you all like. I will likely not be checking the comments of my own mental health and the well-being of my family to all who left genuine advice, even if that meant calling me an I truly do appreciate you, and to all who said hateful things, especially in regards to the loss of my baby, please consider the impact of your words. May of moving forward. Starry 3 husband and I have been married for 5 years. For some context, his siblings, twins, M.F., early 20, are underdeveloped physically and mentally. They can take care of themselves as far as wiping themselves, going to the bathroom and feeding themselves, but they are rather weak, having brittle and fragile bones, and combined with their mental maturity, which is similar to that of about a 12 to 13-year-old. They have to be monitored, cooked for, assisted with going upstairs, moving around for long distances, etc. They can't take care of themselves financially because of all this. All of this I knew while we were dating, but they were being cared for by a team of nurses and caregivers at that time. Not in our home, but about a few months ago, the team was all fired. My husband told me that he was planning to move them in, and about a week or so later, they were moved in, along with a new team. I had no say or even much of a heads up about any of it. The house suddenly became full of staffs. Someone was always there. Our privacy was basically snatched away. My husband already has a busy schedule. He's a doctor, on call a lot, and now I feel like we barely have time to ourselves. I'm competing with everything and everyone. We were about to start a family. Now that we were all settled, things were good between us. But now, everything has been thrown into chaos, and I don't know how to feel. I feel almost a sense of grief. I feel like I have no control of anything. I feel like he just threw away our future and plans, as cruel as that may sound. We had a talk, and everything was pointing toward a divorce, but I just feel so bitter. I feel like he's just giving up. He feels like I'm not being thoughtful enough. I love him more than anything and want to salvage our marriage if I can, before just making any snap decisions. Any advice is appreciated. Edit. Also, I should say his parents are estranged. I've never met them, not even before we married. He cut them off a while ago for a very understandable reason. Update. After taking everyone's thoughts into consideration and taking some time to myself to think, I sat down with my husband when he was off call and told him I wanted to talk about everything that's happened. He told me that he wanted to talk to, and we had a raw heart-to-heart about everything. We discussed the main issue that I mentioned in my previous post. I told him that I felt hurt about him not consulting or even telling me about what was going on, and he sincerely apologized for it, telling me that he wasn't thinking about much else other than their situation. which I understood, even if it still made me feel a certain way. But then he told me that he needed to be honest to me about something, and that he understood that it may affect things between us, but that the whole situation with his siblings and their previous care team made him realize it even more. He became very blunt. He told me that while he loves me more than anything, he loves them more, and that he has to put them first from now on, above anything. He told me that he couldn't handle anything else happening, and that everything he's done, the cameras, moving in the staff, was necessary. And while this, of course, hurt for me to hear, even though I understand, like I have for this whole situation, I realized some things. He might have acted selfishly at first, even if it was understandable. But my reaction could have been better, I admit. He was breaking down right in front of me, reliving trauma that reminded him of his childhood, and I was too busy in my own feelings to offer any true support. I felt awful about that. I didn't mention much of it in the previous post, but his parents were truly awful people. Their neglect caused the undeveloped regress state of the twins in the first place. And if he hadn't taken care of them while they were small, they possibly wouldn't have survived. They're very attached to him, almost like a small child with their parent. As painful as it was, I accepted that I couldn't come before their relationship. I did know about his legal obligation before we became married, so I obviously knew they were important to him. I have no bitter feelings toward the two. They're innocent in this situation and are very precious in their ways in general. As far as our future plans, we agreed that we'd wait a few years, 3 at the max, before truly deciding if we wanted to have a child or not. We were on the fence, but I was falling in love with the idea of motherhood, perhaps more than I realized. He was also very receptive about having designated areas that were staff only and me only. It's already been implemented a bit with still more things to out in place, and I'm feeling a lot better about that already. And lastly, I realize that this may seem like the fool's option to some, to the many who jumped straight to divorce, but now I know of all the facts and where he stands, so anything that may happen from now will be completely on me. I feel hopeful in my decision, and I'm not wanting to give up. For him and the marriage that I still value so much, I am willing to give it a try and try to adjust to our new normal. Thank you to everyone who helped me. Final edit. Thank you, everyone. I'm logging out from this account now. I appreciated some of the advice more than others, but everyone's opinions were still read. Overall, I am content with my decision, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future might bring for us. Whether we have children or not, with the resources that we have, I am sure we will work things out. We both know where the other stands and what we've gotten into. That conversation we will revisit when we make our decision. We love each other, whether some choose to believe it or not. Thanks again.